Dr. Danny, I love you so much.
If I could just touch his face. If I could just touch his face.
The hem of his garment.
Oh my.
Hem of his garment.
He's real.
Good morning, everybody. It is so good to see everybody on this last Monday of April.
Is it the last Monday of April? It is.
Yes. It will be May soon. Soon and very soon. Dr. Danny, so good to see you this morning. JT, the brand master, has joined us. Oh my God. Man. We are ready for an amazing show. It works. This morning, guys, thank you for those who are already tuned in. If you are tuned in, please like, share this conversation today with others. If you have not checked out our morning show before, go to educationalentities.com, to our YouTube channel, and connect to so many great shows that we have going on this season, because next season, praying for some amazing shows, and I'm also praying for some sponsors. Oh, you got to put out there what you want to win for. So yes, definitely throwing that out there. But good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the I Win Morning Show. We are super, super, super excited about seeing you guys today. How was the weekend, everybody?
I'll reserve my comments until JT updates us on how his life has been.
Life has been busy, but life has been good. My nose is stopped up, so we're pressing through. I never have these problems before, so I don't know if that's because I'm getting old, or it's just something the Lord wants me to experience in my life.
I have never heard so many 40 and 30-year-olds talk about how old they are. And maybe because I've never been 40, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm just like, old? Y'all feel old? Because
didn't you just celebrate your whole birthday where you had a whole extravaganza and trapeze and Rihanna's coming down from the Super Bowl? Didn't we just do that?
Good morning, Dana. And listen, guys.
Yep.
I cannot wait to be older.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying my life the way it is. And if you are in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you have a lot of youth in you. I just want people to claim that. I hear too many people close to me say, "Oh, I'm so old." I'm like, what? I work with seniors, and they don't sound like this. So I need y'all to get it together. Help y'all. Hallelujah. All right. It is.
I'm glad.
Because the seniors not talking about how old they are, and they getting out and they doing their two-step. I know because I was with them this weekend. So I need for us to come on.
Because you are old soul. Hallelujah. You older than we are.
Old soul. That's amen. But you wouldn't be able to tell it by my face or my actions. Ha! Somebody help me.
Oh, I can tell it by your face.
Somebody help me. Somebody help me.
I can tell it by your face. I knew it when I first saw you. You was 20 years older than me.
It's okay. It was wisdom. It was the wisdom that met you. It was the wisdom that met you. Guys, listen, if you're tuned into the I Win Morning Show, we're talking about things that happened over the weekend. Enjoy your youth in whatever age you are. Let me say that. Enjoy your youthfulness and tell us how your weekend went. Let's go.
Well, then I'll go because we're talking about feeling old and all that. Well, I'm 40, and I will tell you, I got to work in this yard this weekend and realized I channeled my mother's spirit because she was until the end working in the yard diligently. And as I was working in the yard, I noticed that the roses she planted for me were blossoming. And I am not a green thumb person like Jason. And so people kept telling me, well, you have to prune them and do all this stuff. And I hadn't touched them. And then all of a sudden there was this huge outpouring of red roses right there. And so it just completely energized me. And when I say I was pushing that lawnmower, y'all, trying to be all cute and stuff, and
Miss Parker,
trimming the hedges and everything, just like in the Lifetime movies. But anyway, I did it, and I felt so young at the end. Right? Hi, neighbors. I felt so young at the end. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love being in the yard.
Did you push the lawnmower diagonal so it gives you diagonal lines? Horizontal lines? Were you making designs and stuff, or were you just like, I just need the grass to be cut?
It was called Operation Get It Done. So I was randomly just cutting areas. I may have missed a couple just to get done.
Not a couple just to get done. Got to cut those corners, y'all. Listen, get out in the yard. That is super exciting to hear that. I've already been in the yard. I'm excited for people to come by and see how I've spruced up the gardens this year. Super excited about that. JT.
Mm-hmm.
Anything exciting over the weekend?
No, I helped my mother move. Now,
hey, Mom.
I don't know if the Lord was trying to keep us from something, but the time that I arrived to move her, the truck got stuck in the mud, and then I had to get some help from the ones that stand on the road. That'd be like, we'll help. So we brought them over, and they tried to allow us to, help get the truck out. And when we started getting some traction after a couple of hours, then the other tire on the other side blew and it went flat. So not only do we have a tire in the mud, we have the other tire that is flat. And then we pulled it out. It was a lot. And then, we got it out and we called the U-Haul people and said, hey, can we go? She was like, all right, we'll send somebody. On my way, to drop off our help, I get a call from the guy that's coming. He was like, a tree just fell. So is there another way to get to the house? And I'm just like, what is going on, people of God? But we got it done. So a 2-hour moving situation turned into a 9-hour day.
That's like a Tyler Perry movie.
I was about to say Tyler Perry or Real Housewives of Atlanta. That would have been some good footage.
I kept looking around like, wait, am I being filmed? Let me go clean up a little bit. And it was just a lot. But we moved my mother in, and she's good. And then we had a busy Sunday, but we're here on Monday. So we give God praise.
Awesome. All right, here on Monday is good.
Jason? I hear Mama had a birthday.
Well, let me go ahead and fan for you guys.
Wow.
Yes, we have had big birthdays this month. Guys, I do these signature cards for the foundation. So my grandfather turned 80 this month. And my mom's birthday was this weekend, so we had family that came down and just the overall good time. But the weekend was amazing. Atlanta Public Schools celebrated 150 years.
Nice.
And I spent that time, of course, with, why wouldn't I? I spent it with retired educators and teachers from Atlanta Public Schools, many who didn't get a chance to go to the parade that APS had, but definitely worked together. So it was really good to celebrate with them over the weekend. But also on Friday, I had the opportunity to see some of my former team members. And it's really good, some 10 years later, to go back. JT, Keisha was there.
Hey, Keisha.
A parent coordinator still in Atlanta Public Schools and one of the partners of the foundation. So
was there a reason why I didn't know that there was a parade? Was it because I wasn't a good worker, or
I don't know how Atlanta Public Schools communicated that. Now I saw it because I'm active on social media, but as an alumni,
and you want to text me and ask me to come.
I didn't receive an email as an alumni, as an active alumni. As that I didn't receive an email or like a personal invitation from anyone to be like, "Hey, show up." So if you,
how were you waving at the people? Were you like? How were you waving at the people?
I was kind of more of a I like to do that.
I love it. Yeah, that's like being photo ready at all times.
That's it. Always.
Yeah, it's the real excitement though, because I'm like, I just saw your mama, stuff like that. It was really good. Did you know the
people that you were waving at, or did you not know them? They just knew you.
I did know the people that I was waving at. Now, let me tell you, if I don't know you, you ain't gonna know, because I would just be like, girl, come over here and hug me. I know you. I'll do that just because I know everybody else, and I'm like, I don't know this one person, but I'm gonna hug you like I know you. So it's not like he don't know me.
That's what's up. Smart.
I just tried to be like, if you're here, somebody knows you, and I know people here. So hey, But that's it, man. It was a great weekend, and still prayers going out to Chivy Brooks and his family, his wife, his youngest son, and in their village. I loved how they created the narrative around Bryce's passing. He's a hero, but the celebrations of his life, in regards to his funeral, have ended. So it's a real journey of that family continuing on without one of their members. And so I always am very intentional about making sure just putting good energy out for people who are grieving. It's a life process. It doesn't just go away. I think people feel like, oh yeah, it just goes away like in a couple of weeks. No, it's a life process. So prayers for everyone who is still experiencing grief and going through that journey. All right. So with that being said, we have an amazing show today. We're going to be having some new segments coming to you guys for the show. I'm super excited about that. And
I got a question. Didn't Dr. Danny have something about grief?
That's coming up in May, the first Sunday in May. Thank you.
Okay. I just remember the flyer, the blue and black.
Good grief.
Okay.
Yeah, and our grandparents, shout out to Dr. Danny. They'll get to hear from you twice because Dr. Danny will be having that coming up. I'm sure she's going to drop us some more information about that.
I will next week.
During our announcements and next week. The grandparents, I know, are excited about it. And they'll also be hearing from Dr. Danny as we get ready to close out the school year. The importance of college readiness, as many of them now are in high school. And it's so funny. I remember I think I sent Dr. Danny a picture of her and my mom. We were at Ivy Prep at one of the elementary schools that we supported. And we had grandkids there in elementary school who now are going into high school. One is already in high school. So it's just funny how time flies, like Janet said, when you're having fun.
When you're having fun, that's right.
So yes, but Dr. Danny, speaking of you, we are ready to hear those words of affirmations. If you are tuned in this morning, go ahead and tag somebody into the conversation. But Dr. Danny, we're going to pass the mic to you.
Awesome. Thank you. This is a short and sweet one, but I do want to give a disclaimer because there is something about the beauty of curiosity in a child. if you ever gone into a classroom and you got the kid that asks a million questions and you want to tell them to stop asking questions, but then you realize there's something refreshing about that curiosity. And as we mentioned earlier in this show about age, you are never too old to be curious. As long as you're curious and can ask questions, that means you're constantly thinking, you're being innovative, and you've got so much information to learn. But curiosity also helps us in creating this way of challenging systems. We should never, ever be complacent where we are, especially with systems that need to be changed. So I am really dedicating this affirmation to all of you who want to be curious, who need to be reminded to be curious. And it goes just like this: be curious, be confident, and be courageous. Be all of those things. And when you say it to yourself, say, I am curious, I am confident, I am courageous. That is the affirmation today.
All right. I am what I say I am. I like that. Dr. Danny with those words of affirmation for the morning. Now, guys, we are going to have some new segments coming on. JT will tell us a little bit about his. Mine is probably going to be so not what you think is going to be amazing. But JT, you want to share a little bit about your upcoming segment to the I Win Morning Show before we get into our convo?
He's frozen.
I think he's focused and frozen. Okay. JT's has a segment that'll be coming to the I Win Morning Show. It's called JT's Random Things to Know. So listen, guys, if you need to know some things to just help you out, you got to tune in to JT's new segment. Okay, we hear his laugh. Okay, he's back. But yeah, JT's Random Things. Now, guys, I do a lot of talking already, but I am going to have a short little segment too, and it's going to be called Dear Guide. It's going to be like a Dear Abby column. Yes. And I have some listen, I want to do like I used to do Mayor Shirley Franklin when I had her cell phone number, and I would call her up and be like, hey, did you know that this street light is out? Did you know that they are not doing what they said they were going to be doing with this building? And my daddy had to tell me, now, son, listen, she is the mayor of this great city. You can't call her every 5 minutes about everything that you see while you're driving through the streets of Atlanta. But if I did have a direct line to God, I got some questions, buddy, for you, okay? So tune into some of these segments. It's going to be really great to bring some much needed laughter into all of our lives, because the world we live in, it's beautiful, but it could be something else, right? So with that said, we're going to
what about me?
Go ahead, Dr. Danny. Dr. Danny, your segment. Go ahead, Dr. Danny. Tell us about your segment, even though it is the main segment. It is the main. Y'all didn't know that?
No. Outside of the affirmation. Come on now.
Go ahead, Dr. Danny.
Serious. But I'm going to ask America. I want y'all to tell Dr. Danny what kind of segment do y'all want from me. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to open it up, and then we will decide. America will help us decide what segment do you think Dr. Danny needs to do. That's y'all's homework.
What segment do you guys want Dr. Danny to do?
Yes.
Now, y'all heard the affirmations. Y'all know that the affirmations have been coming through since we started. Not from the bottom, but when we started in November with this. So super excited. Our season is getting ready to come to an end in June for the first season. And it has been simply amazing. So shout out to Dr. Danny and JT, the brand master. I actually just created that name for him, and kind of Dr. Danny for Dr. Danny, just because they're super cool, and why wouldn't I? But we're going to go right into our very, very heavy, but yet informative conversation on today. So, guys, if you are ready, as JT is meditating and praying, that's why that thing is turning like that. He likes to do that on the show. So, like, guys, don't feel any type of way about that. But listen, our big question for today is this. All right. Do you think we will ever overcome racism? That is our big question for today. First of all, you guys know we've already put out a couple of posts asking you guys what you want us to speak on. to talk about, to chat up. We have had some phenomenal feedback, so we are going to shout out to Dr. Raymond Burke Allen. We did his question on last week. It is also important to highlight some others, Jason, Shirley, my cousins, who actually put some great questions that we're going to be hitting on possibly today. But we are going to get into it. And the activist in me is excited because I'm like, people are probably like, yeah, he's ready. But I'm very curious to hear what the people have to say. So let's talk about it, y'all. We talking about race this morning, how it shows up in our everyday lives, and what are we going to do about it?
What are we going to do about it? Well, yeah. They said we shall overcome someday. Didn't mean we're going to overcome today.
All right.
So someday, I don't know when that date is. It might be beyond all of our generations, but I will be very transparent. I work in the sector of diversity, equity, and inclusion, where we are all about breaking down and tearing down the walls of oppression and racism. And when we go in there, we believe that there is hope that racism can be dismantled. The more I do this work, I say probably not so. But we can believe, we can help people believe. And just because you might not be able to overcome it entirely, it doesn't mean you can't do something about it to make change happen. The problem is systemic. And until the systems officially change 100%, there is completely no racism whatsoever. But I do have a question about our big question. If we were able to just really get rid of racism with one particular group, does that mean that we've done a good job? Let's say if racism against Black people, if we were able to actually fix that problem, and that problem seems to be like one of the hardest ones to overcome. Does that mean that we've done a good job? Or does that mean that we should not give ourselves credit for that if all other groups are still suffering with racism? So I think I'm more curious to know about what would progression look like in that space. Because as soon as you get somebody else liberated, and I believe that was one of the questions about liberation. Once you empower somebody else and focus on a particular group to liberate that group, then you got another group that's being oppressed or feeling oppressed or that you hadn't paid attention to. So it's like, I would love to know what is progression with racism and dismantling racism.
All right, Dr. Danny, thank you for starting us off in such an amazing way. We do have a heavy question, but it's important because we don't really think about this. If you turn on the news, you see race play out in everything. What we see, how the news is communicated. Former Vice President Pence was recently in Atlanta. He didn't come to any Black churches. He didn't go to any Asian churches. He went to white churches to kind of reinforce what many will say is conservatism, which all white people are conservative. We make that assumption. There are Black people who are conservative as well. There are Black people who vote Republican. But there are also the undertones of racism that show up in all of these systems. Church is a system. School is a system. The mail office, post office is a system. The systems in America that Dr. Danny brought up are always important to remember in these conversations. So for those who are giving comments, definitely appreciate this. But we want to know, how is racism showing up in your community? How is it showing up where you work? How do you guys feel about what we are seeing in our society? And we should not have to wait to the next unfortunate situation, whether it's police brutality, whether it's an incident that has happened in one of our schools with our children. We should not have to wait for an incident to happen for us to have real conversations around where we are with race. And so we are hearing what you guys have said, and we're getting right into it. So JT, the brand master, is back with us. Let's chime in, guys. What do we think?
I love I'm sorry. I was going to say, I love Kenneth's statement about the difference between ending racism and increasing equity or equality.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's a difference between ending racism and increasing equality. This is not just about the hate; it's about the acceptance. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. I agree with that too because I do think it can it. I think anything can happen, but will it? I don't believe so because for the other race, the Caucasian race, for them to really, I believe, to give us equality, they have to acknowledge their place and where they are and where we've been placed. And sometimes feel like you have to come and level. And I feel like they never want to level with us because they feel like they're having to give up something without knowing that you made us have to give up our heritage, our life, our history. We've already given up enough. Can you at least come to a place where we can level and acknowledge? You don't even want to acknowledge. You want to take out certain things in the society because you feel uncomfortable, when yet half of us don't even know our origin because you changed our names, you displaced our family member. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what happened, and we've been through a lot. So can you at least acknowledge it and say, okay, and then understand, okay, these are the things that we need to do to be able to help it. But because they keep making children, they keep growing their legacy, and they keep perpetuating the same knowledge and notions, I do believe that falls into these kids that they birthed into this earth, and they continue to do the same thing because at the end of the day, people want to feel superior. They want to feel that they don't want to go without, even though we have made a life with going without and making the best of it. They don't want to experience that, and it's going to cause the superior to become level with where we are, to even sometimes be okay with us taking the lead and you not being there and being okay. But I don't think that's going to ever happen.
Wow. Good perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I want to go here and say that these conversations have been going on for a while. So I'm reading another book. I was writing an article over the weekend, Putting the Children First. This came out maybe 23 years ago when I was graduating from high school. And on the front of the book, you see an image of a Black child where they are acknowledging, especially in Newark's public school system, that, hey, we need to really start putting the children that we're educating first. Going back and reading this book for 23 years ago and to right now, we still have not met Black and brown parents where they are. We really have not improved the system in a way where it's either going to be reformed into something different or dismantled and built again into something new. And so when we think about this conversation around, do you think we will ever overcome racism? I want to challenge our generation to utilize the power that we have, which is access to resources and also education, and really challenge the foundational structure of these systems and actually either dismantle them or build new ones. Because if our generation doesn't do it with the connection to our history and the knowledge that we have, then what disservice are we truly doing to our future generations? So that's my thoughts on it. Loving some of the comments that are still coming in. I'm going to pass the mic back to the I Win team.
Well, one of the biggest challenges that we face is denial. Critical race theory. Everybody's talking about, don't talk about history or talk about these parts of history and don't tell the whole, they don't say don't tell the whole story, but that's what they allude to. And right. So you can't overcome anything until you put it out there and know what you're overcoming. And right. That is the biggest challenge, that there are not enough safe spaces to have these kind of conversations, to put it all out there. To really identify what the issues are, and then to actually have the conversations about overcoming, to share our different perspectives and to say, you know what, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. Let's figure out how we can overcome this together. There is not enough of that because we are so defensive. Wow. And some of us are rightfully defensive, but it's holding on to this ideal of what we think we're living in. It's, even those who are conservatives, I'll say Black people who are conservative, I I get it from a religious standpoint, but then I don't get it from the standpoint of, but you're still a Black person walking in these streets here. Like, how are you so conservative? And conservative doesn't really compliment you. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's good. You. I'm very curious about that, Dr. Dan.
Or the people that look like you.
Yeah.
How this creates a space that pushes us away, but we're okay with that because we, again, want to be superior. We don't want to go without. Right. We don't want to be left. Okay, let me just get up here and I'll come and get you. Okay, I'm still here waiting.
No, that's good. Okay. That make deep conversation, guys. If you are conservative, if you're a Black conservative or a Black Republican, definitely want to hear from you because those are good points. I always think about that when they showed, former Vice President Pence on the news, and it was like you could see the lack of diversity in the crowd. There were like 2 Black people that they flashed, and I always think about how do you feel in spaces like that where a lot of people's personal beliefs come into play, and it's like, I've heard people make statements in large crowds like that. It's like, they deserve to be, in this position, or their people, don't do anything but just take government assistance. Those type of, dynamics, and I'm like, how do you maneuver through these spaces as being Black and Republican or Black and conservative? So definitely something to chat up and talk about as well. Would love to
blame it on somebody else.
I want to add this too, because I know this also came up from one of our audience, our viewers. But just because we had one Black president, doesn't mean that we have overcome racism.
Yeah, thank you. Say that one more time.
I don't know who that's for, but just because we had one Black president, just one, doesn't mean we've overcome racism.
It actually heightened it and made it more visible that it was really sitting there in front of us. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, look at after President Obama's presidency. Yes, we had issues with police brutality and, the age-old stories that felt like, it was once out of a generation. After President Obama, it became like an every month situation, and now we're marching and Black Lives Matter, and then that movement was hijacked, and so it's like we're making a mockery of Black Lives Matter, but we're also making a mockery of us gaining power and access, and everything that we do has to be scrutinized. I want to go here to Dr. Danny's point. I'm also thinking about a lot of the Black entertainers, Blacks in leadership who have been scrutinized differently than our white counterparts who are doing the same thing. It's amazing how we have white counterparts who took money from people who needed it that still have not been held accountable, but Black leaders that may have been accused of something, and it's almost like they have lost their contracts, they have lost their positions, they have lost their credibility off of an accusation, where our counterparts have actually been found guilty of doing these things, and there are no media reports. There is no, uproar about, oh my God, they stole these millions of dollars from people who needed it, and why are we not getting the money back to the people? So I love that point that Dr. Danny made. We had one Black president, yes, but that did not just lift the entire veil of racism in this country to say, okay, we're done with
it. Right. Well, what are we going to do about it?
That's the question of the day.
How
do we overcome?
Come on. We tried to get the second. We tried to get the Black governor, and we see how that went.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode.
A whole other episode. There's a Republican governor in North Carolina. If you may have not heard the news or you don't have family there, but there is a Black Republican, older Black gentleman who's running for governor in North Carolina, and he believes that Black Americans owe America reparations for our freedom, that we should be paying America back for our freedom as Black Americans, and so reparations should not be paid
because this is their country,
and we're still not free.
They founded this country. They didn't come over and find it from other people. Okay.
Yeah, but I just want you guys to understand that also too. It's not just us battling racism, and it's like it's a black and white war. There is a notion that black people. It wasn't people of color. See how that also changes too. It wasn't people of color that owe reparations, because again, if you come across the border from whichever side, you're an immigrant. We're not talking about immigration. We're not talking about our brown cousins. This is a governor, candidate for governor in North Carolina that isn't saying any other group but black people should be paying America reparations for our freedom, when we know and we understand that everyone isn't free in these United States. So it's just very interesting. Again, this conversation about racism and how it goes beyond the color lines of just black and white, the role that people of color play in this. And when are we people of color? Are we people of color when it benefits those who say we're superior? Or are we people of color when other groups are attacked and they need black people to show up, because we've always been showing up for everyone? So just something to think about as well.
I'm gonna say this because if I end up missing, y'all know why. But I still hold to this. That census, I don't care what anybody says. That census, there was something behind that census that they did right before. Was it right before COVID or in the midst of COVID?
Right before.
And I don't care what anybody says, but there was an ulterior motive to truly assess demographics here in America and where people lie, you know. And what it proved was we are, in about the next 10 years, are going to be a very brown community, a brown nation. So, I mean, you know, y'all are giving out this information. America, I want y'all to listen to this. Y'all are giving out this information and you're being obedient to the government and sharing the information. But it's not just about us knowing random information. It's about understanding. We're going back to racism. Well, let's size up where we all are. How many white folks are here? What's the percentage of white folks here in America? How many folks are mixed or you know, other races? And what they are finding from that census is that there is a drastic increase of people of color here in America. So when you're asking about, are we going to be able to overcome racism? Well, one way or another, we're going to have to, because we're going to be a very brown nation.
A very mixed nation, yes. I'm curious about biracial families too, Dr. Danny, that you brought that up, because the census has also said that this is a growing area. Hence, we had mixed, I want to say it was Mixed-ish, that was on television. They pulled that show because there were a lot of conservatives that were like, we don't want this to be, you know, we don't want this to be the thing. We do not want our young daughters getting married to and creating families with black and brown men. We simply don't. Now, if you go into areas outside of the inner city, you do see that a lot more now.
If you go into the NFL or the NBA, you'll see it too.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a whole other conversation of black men who make it in entertainment and they have white wives. Now, if y'all want us to talk that up,
let's not go there today.
We're not gonna go there today. But America, we do have a problem in regards to race in this country and what this looks like moving forward.
Well, I don't know what it looks like moving forward. I don't even know if we're moving. I can say we probably are moving forward. I just don't know if it's in the best of, do I have hope that it will get better? Because it seems like the more we move forward, the worse we're running into it. From the DeSantis, from the other voices that are rising up in agreement to this and to that. It's just like, what is going to happen on our side? Because here's the other truth. While I understand that our lightness, people may not be so fond of our achievements and our forwardness, but at the same time, I also have to keep an eye open even for my brothers and sisters, because I don't know, when people are not used to certain types of access, power, and success, we're not sure who they're going to become. And when we get to this moment, are you still going to fight for us, or are you going to, well, let me just ease on it? Because here's the thing, once I get the power, once I get the opportunity of success, they're still being controlled by my Caucasian brothers and sisters. And they then begin to say, if you want to keep this, you're going to have to alter your conversation, your talking points, your presentation. And it's like, well, we pushed you here to make sure that we're getting a seat at the table. And now you're saying, oh, just give us a minute. And a minute turns into months, months turn into years, and we're still in that place. So I'm a little sketchy on where we're going ahead, and I try not to get so selfish and just looking out for myself, because do I have hope that we will fight for each other, that we will create spaces? We can barely agree on even the same issues. Every time I go to the Civil Human Rights Museum, I see what they were all fighting for. I see the points that they all agreed upon. But I'm like, do we even know what we are even fighting for, what we're going to agree on? No. So I think if we really want to see change, we have to understand this is the route that we're going to go together. And when we get this, we'll get this, and we'll agree upon it. And not just go thinking somebody's going to fight. No, we got to agree. Because there is power, I know, in number, that we have the influence, we have the strategy, we have the fortitude, we got it. But if we are not coming together as a group, then they're going to keep dividing us. And no, we're not going to be able to overcome anything.
Such good comments from the iWin team and those who are viewing. Sherry mentioned that colorism is the other issue. I think it all depends on how we show up. Shout out to, I love this brother Otis. Shout out to Otis. Racism will remain as long as capitalism remains. And I was looking for this comment because that is true. It goes beyond simply race. Because when we do make it into various spaces, you realize that the only color that really and truly matters to people who want control and power is green.
Yeah,
it's the almighty dollar. And a lot of people outside of the United States say that. That we are so focused on the money, we are so focused on the dollar and how to build and get control in that sense, that we're willing to forsake anything. Look at how people change their bodies to try to gain acceptance, wealth, or power. They change what they believe. They change who they are. Sometimes they'll forsake their families for the dollar, for some wealth. And to be honest, you know, a good steak every now and then is good. But and maybe they were college days, but coming through college days and you just had to do what you had to do, whether it was cereal, noodles, a potluck with the people that you love, those were times that I would never forget, because we were all together in unity. We were bringing ourselves together. We were intentional about it. And so sometimes we think that more is better and we overlook the amazing things that we do have. So I want to say that to the comments that we're seeing come in, and remember that the biggest challenge, the biggest race that's winning in racism is green.
I do want to put it out there too, that racism isn't just a black and white issue. And so be mindful of that even when we're talking about in general, the capitalism, and we might be mainly focusing on white people who are in the dominant culture, there's racism against, you know, between black people and Asian people and so on and so forth. So I just want us to all be mindful that, again, going back to gauging how are we talking about overcoming or reducing the amount of racism. I think there are two different questions. Do you think we can overcome it, or do you think we can improve or overcome some of it, making steps and strides towards, you know, reducing some of that? And so with that being said, remember that it's a transfer of power. And so when one group becomes elevated and empowered and overcomes in their own way, then it's because racism or systems like that are about control. And so it's, who are we dominating now that we're elevated? Because we aren't all rising up together, unfortunately, because of the way systems are working. So, you know, again, it's coming in and wondering, okay, well, if I'm elevated as a woman of color, then does that mean I'm overcoming my obstacles of oppression because I'm now dominant over another group? And so I'm just curious, and I'm not saying it's yes, no, right or wrong, but remember that there's a transfer of what racism and prejudice is. So overcoming may not be realistic because it's always about being over somebody else or over another group. So
come on, y'all. Now that's it. And we think about it, you know, the education system is such a pivotal part of this conversation because it starts with how we're educating the young minds. And it's not just in school, but also out of school. What are we teaching our young people about how we engage with one another, how they see us? Yes, there is reality TV, but I'm not trying to be funny. On social media, we cutting up. People are cutting up. Black, white, brown, green, yellow, orange, blue. People are cutting up on social media, and the young people, they see white people fighting each other. They see white women spitting and fighting at us. They see us fighting each other. I mean, they see the Asian community. Like, and I was shocked by that. I was like, I didn't even know they had, you know, that's how they dealt with tension in their community. I was very shocked by the, again, access to social media and the stories that our young people are seeing from our social interactions. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do as a people. And one of the things that we don't teach young people is that we are one race. We are humans. Yep. So if it was humans against animals, robots, aliens, baby, we would lose because we wouldn't know who we were fighting. we wouldn't know who we were fighting. Lord help us.
You know what though? The one thing that might bring us all together is this Freaknik documentary. It may bring us all together. We might all overcome because we're scared. America is scared right now. And I know it wasn't just a black event now. I've seen the pictures. No,
it wasn't just a black event. It wasn't just a college event. Some classmates and I had a good conversation. I was like, oh my God, y'all, I'm trying to run for school board this fall. And what are y'all talking about? But I remember that, you know, people forget that Freaknik also connected to the parks in Atlanta. I grew up off of MLK, which is in between two of the biggest parks that were a part of Freaknik. So I didn't feel any type of way because at the end of the day, I'm like, child, if you saw me sitting on the railroad track and I'm waving my hand, I'm just waving at people. That's why I was trying to tell them, like,
were you old enough to be a part?
I was.
I was not old enough to participate. No, because I was in school in the 90s. However, like most of my classmates who grew up in the areas where it was, we were sitting right on the stoop and on the railroad track and on the corner of MLK looking at the cars and all of the other, you know, like, I mean, the motorcycles, it was a thing.
I don't remember any. I remember it being talked about, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know why we did it. I don't know what was the reason for it. I don't know. So I need to really, that's why I want to watch it because I want to know what was the origin? Why did we choose to do this? And how did people end up going in like that? I'm curious.
I don't know how people ended up going. I think it was really like, it was really our Woodstock, to be honest. I don't know any other way to say this. Like, because here's the other reality. People were not all doing the same thing. I think people are caught up on, they were freaking and dancing in the, you know, people were doing that.
Dancing
but people weren't grilling. People were pulling out grills everywhere in the middle of the street and selling food and buying clothes and for us, by us. And, hey, let me get this mixtape. You talking about moving music. Everybody had their tapes out and was on the, they were on the hustle. But it was a lot of everything happening. And so I know we're talking about overcoming racism, but maybe it does take a Woodstock or a Freaknik, some type of large festival that brings all types of people together. I don't know. Maybe that would fix it.
Well, I'm talking about the shame because we all gonna have to come together and pray. That's gonna have to be a corporate prayer now. Folks
pray and light some incense or whatever you made.
We can all come together to watch the documentary. Let's just all
I heard that there's a judge and then there's some influential black women that are trying to sue them for putting it out. And I'm like,
you can't.
This is what you chose to do. And they're talking about what it was. if you're in there, they're not lying. They're literally portraying the truth. So I mean,
But I also think that speaks to the systems that we're living in right now. Because here's the reality: if you did, people have sex, people smoke, people drink, people live. It's their lives.
People do.
So,
oh my God!
And I think that we don't really get over that notion that people are going to people. I mean, they are. Dear God, you gave us free will. Why? That's gonna be one of the first things I ask. Like, God, why did you do this? Because I know that if you thought about it, you knew these people were gonna go crazy, and they are. But here's the reality: a lot of people that may be in these documentaries, whether it's Freaknik, whether it's Woodstock, whatever it is, they're trying to make sure that they keep their place in the system now, and that system is saying that you have to put on a certain face. And if you are Black, you need to subscribe to this. You need to go to this church, and your family needs to sit this way and speak this way. You need to make sure you present yourself in the best manner, because it is very important that you show up in a very articulate, in a very humble, in a very righteous way, so that you are accepted here in the United States. And it's very important that you maintain this image, because if you maintain this image, then all of the money, all of the power, all of the things that you desire will come to you. So yes, I can see people being very concerned about the documentary, because they don't want to lose their status. They don't want to lose their place. They also don't want to lose the respectability that comes with politics, and also the way that they move in their circles. And I mean, I respect that. I get it. I mean, to each its own. However, I mean, if you were there and
nobody told you to be twerking. Nobody told you to have your leg up in the air. Nobody told you to do that.
And if you did,
you just have to go with it.
If you did, you did. Listen,
look how
that was a good time had by all.
Let that be your testimony.
We're gonna have a whole show when the documentary comes out. We're gonna have a whole show dedicated to that. But as we close out the show today, how are we feeling about racism? How is it showing up? We know that it's a real thing. Do we think we'll ever overcome racism? I think the collective is no. But we do have some strides in what we've done. Like Michael Jackson would say, to make this world a better place. And so I think if we stick with that, we keep educating our young people. Again, Dr. Danny brought this up about CRT and, the removal of historic and factual information in our schools. If children aren't getting it, then they're not going to even know what the systems are even going to present to them. So yes.
I mean, I know we're joking about the past of Freaknik, but making a weird connection. The past is the past, and racism is part of the past, but it's still very much present. And so I want us to just understand that owning and recognizing where we have come from and starting there. And even if it's ugly, even if it's like that Freaknik video with Keisha out there, it's like,
not ugly.
It's right. Not Mayor Keisha, just whatever Keisha's out there, or Susie, whoever it is. But knowing that it starts with just owning this is what a decision that was made. It might have been part of the history of my family. My grandmother was at Freaknik. It's just like owning that and acknowledging it so that we can have conversations to move us forward. And again, maybe we will overcome someday, just not today.
Yeah, maybe we will. And listen, maybe that's a conversation that we can have on the I Win Morning Show. Now, I know one question came in around having conversations around healthy sexual lifestyles. And I think that that's important because, again, we all talk about it. We don't talk about it. Now, we talk about the Freaknik documentary, and the kids are going to see it. But how are they empowered to actually be themselves and live in their lifestyles where they can have fun, but yet be safe and also protect their minds, their spirits, and their bodies? And if we're honest, we don't have enough conversations around that. So if anybody wants to talk about the Freaknik documentary, then make sure you're talking about what our young people need to do to make sure that if they go out and they want to have some fun in the streets, that they are also mindful of how they protect their minds, their bodies, and their spirits. If we don't have these conversations at all. So good connected, Dr. Danny. I love that.
Can I just plug in, because I know that I believe it was Sherry had mentioned something about conversations in the community. Yes. be intentional if you're really serious about overcoming racism.